Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Inspire Careers Spotlight on Careers, the video podcast series where I bring leaders from all across the career management space and interview leaders in commercial businesses and nonprofits to help inspire you, provide information, keep you up to date, and help you make better decisions in your careers. I'm extremely excited on a professional and a very personal note today to bring you my guest, Nadia Carta. Hi, Nadia.
Hi, Kathy and I, everyone.
I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Nadia, and then I'm going to let her tell you more about her. But she and I go back a couple of years. We've worked together on a professional level for some networking, and I've been on her podcast, and we've developed a beautiful friendship, and I'm honored to have her here today. So let me tell you a little bit about Nadia. Nadia has built an incredible 15-year career at Google. And when we first met, she was living in Italy, and she has since relocated to New York City and built a beautiful life with her family and Google there. Currently, she is the head of database measurement and analytics for WPP Agencies, which is the largest advertising and public relations advertising in the world. And she'll talk to you a little bit about that. And importantly, she's also the founder and one of the creators of 99 Humans podcast. We're going to talk about that. And the founder, and I will call you the chief inspiration creator at Spark Your Zeal, which is a lifestyle brand that she has released over this past years, which has gained incredible traction. And I'm going to encourage you as we talk here to find her online to follow with her there. But let's start. Nadia, so welcome. So welcome to the podcast. Please tell our audience a little bit more about you than I shared. I want people to know you like I do.
Thanks for having me, Kathy. I have to say I've been so grateful for our friendship. I met you for the first time 8 years ago when we were still based in Italy. Mm-hmm. And I got referenced by one of my dearest friends, Philippe, that I want to say hi to, is based in Switzerland. And he connects us. You know, back then when I met you, I didn't even know that your services were something that existed in market, because in Italy, I'd say everything that is career consultation, career coaching, and even help with resume writing and telling your story really is still a bit emergent. And I feel so lucky that I got to work with you and my husband got to work with you. So we're very grateful for all that you do, Kathy, in the space. And where do I start? I mean, as you can tell from my accent, I'm Italian, and I was born and raised in the beautiful island of Sardinia. If you haven't been, it's absolutely gorgeous. I know we spoke about it. And I had, until now, I had a wonderful life, I have to say. And I decided to build this narrative for myself that life is indeed wonderful, because life is not what happens to you, but life is what you decide to do with it. So the classical narrative, make expensive lemonade with the lemons that are thrown at you. That's exactly what I've decided to make. And I mean, listen, today I'm privileged that I live here in New York. I work for one of the most amazing employers ever, Google, and I get to play a large role in this incredible shift to artificial intelligence. As part of my responsibilities at Google, I'm also an AI evangelist, and so I get to talk to companies and I get to talk at events about what's going on. Is absolutely incredible. I'm sure that a lot of people are also frightened a little bit because it's a change. I was watching Gilded Age 2 days ago, and there was a passage that was really touching and very in line with those times when electricity was born. And people back then in the 1880s were worrying that all of the cooking jobs, for example, would have been taken away by electricity. And we know today, more than 100 years later, that it's not that way. So this is to say that I see myself as a change agent. I see myself as someone that transforms. And I see myself as someone that is different. And I learned in time to embrace my quirkiness, if I can call it that way, and to embrace the light that I build and that I bring. Because eventually I believe that that's what I was born for, to just be a light.
Yeah. And you're a light to everybody that you touch. There's no question about it. And I know that this career that you've built at Google has been incredible. It's taken you across the ocean and here to New York, and you're making such impact I've seen you at conferences all over the country, and the work that you're doing and leading your team is incredible. Can you talk to us just a little bit more about AI in particular? Because you're right, people are afraid of it. I talk to people all day long about it. And I'm just interested to understand your thoughts on it in terms of the pros and cons, if you will, and really kind of how you recommend, as people are listening to this and they're sitting at home and they are kind of afraid about it, what are your learnings from it? And what is your recommendation for how people can lean into it safely and with excitement?
Totally. Thank you for the question. I mean, listen, when I think about my life, I went through 3 of those major shifts, right? And I say global shifts, then in my industry, even more than that. But I was one of these kids that when I was 14, I was very early in the internet adoption. And then after that came mobile, and now is AI. So I've always been on the forefront on those changes. And I want to believe that my abilities and my desire to always embrace and see what's new and all of it allowed me to build this very bright career that I'm able to look back now. And when I think about AI has been around for a long time. And I was reading books, and I was, as part of, again, of my role, I was trainings. We actually launched a new free training, not free, but $49, so very affordable, on Coursera about AI essentials. And I was hearing a speech from Vincent Cerf, I think is his name, so the creator of the internet. And I think the man is around his 80s now. And he was talking about how much he believes on the benefits that AI can bring. Mm-hmm. And while we play with it, so this is one of my first encouragement to people to start playing with it, I'm fascinated by how AI can help in really solving a lot of societal changes that would be very complex to solve otherwise. One of the cases that I always bring and that I'm going to present on Thursday, for example, is how through AI tools, we are able to predict the floatings, for example, or we're able to predict fireworks, or even how today, when we are driving in our cars, we're able to predict and see the traffic and potentially change route. So AI is really making our life better and has been making it better. Now, when it comes to generative AI, which is the ChatGPTs that we're all learning to use, and the Google Geminis, and all of these more interactive tools that are learning how to understand natural language and give outputs in our own way to understanding, I see an incredible potential because they can really act as thought partners and accelerate the way we live society. I'm going to give you a very practical example. You know that I've wrote The Love Letter to Yourself, which is a wonderful booklet that I'm very proud of to teach people how to love themselves. And earlier this year, I really wanted to bring this product in Italy because I had an event and I was traveling, and I know that while everyone speaks English, it's very different to learn about such a tool in your native language.
Sure.
And I remember I was in a rush and I needed to pack all my stuff and just go. And, I turned to Gemini and I said, can you help me translate my booklet from English to Italian and, give me an output? And that happened in 10 minutes. And then I sent the translated booklet to my editor in Italy. And I said, can you check it and make sure that, is readable and is au pair? Now, people can argue, but you could have given that job to a translator, right? And so some might argue that maybe a translator lost an engagement because of what I did. But at that moment, I would have not given it to a translator because that translator would have not been able to do it in the speed of light that I needed it to have because I only had literally one afternoon to make that happen. So what I want to say and what I'm implying here is that jobs will be transformed. And what we know the way it is today, it will be different. And my biggest advice for the people that are out there, and I typically translate an acronym that is LEARN, LEARN, is about, number one, L, learn everything about these technologies because the difference will be between you, that you know how to use it, and then others that will not embrace it. And guess who's going to get the future jobs? Yeah. And then the E is for experimentation. Only by trying and always by experimenting how that is applied to you, you will know how to get around. Then the A is about, it's going to be ambiguous at the very beginning. But again, through experimentation and open mind, you will see how to navigate. And then the R is really about relate to those tools, understand what you're doing. And then the N is nurture it. Speak about it. Organize AI chit-chat sessions and coffees chat and go to events. Because, Kathy, I believe that we're not going back. And this is going to be meant to solve for the future.
Wow, that's incredible. And thank you for that acronym too, because that it really just puts it in perspective. But do you remember too, back when, and I'm a little older than you, but when the internet really first took point and everybody had a computer at home, everybody thought people would lose jobs. Did some people lose jobs because of it? Yes, but new jobs were created, new industries were created. The people that would have not have had those jobs 30 years ago are now feeding their families and creating fabulous, phenomenal lives off of it. So this is evolution, and change is the world. It is the world. So to ignore it doesn't make it go away. It in fact puts you at a disadvantage. Isn't that what you're saying?
Oh my God, 100%. And I love that you made the examples of the internet. It's not that because we have emails, we're not sending letters anymore. On the contrary, every year I sent 400 postcards for the holiday season. And I love sending them and I love receiving them. Now, of course, I'm not sending the basic letter that says, oh, how are you doing? Oh, I need this. I'd rather send an email for that. But it's the use case that changes. It's the use case that evolves. And eventually, as you said, new jobs are getting created as we speak.
Yeah. And, it's up to every individual to say, I'm going to lean into it or I'm not going to. But the reality is, and even it's impacted my industry. And I know that I've heard resume writers, career coaches say, well, people don't need us anymore because they can do everything with AI. And I say, you still don't have that human touch. It is meant to be a thought partner. You can do interview prep, but to get real human being feedback based on what you know about the industry or different contexts and how to network, it's a completely different animal. So it's great for production. It's great for thinking. And I would say that there's a level of probably different jobs that, AI is probably perfectly fine for. But for most, it's not. It's strictly a tool like anything else. And
one of the things I love to say is that it amplifies human capabilities.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Absolutely. And I do think that you can be resistant to it if you want to be, but it is going to be more detrimental and it's harder to catch up. And I see that now with people I work with that still don't have good skills from even like Google Docs perspective, Microsoft Word perspective, online, social media. Listen, I'm not saying you got to be on TikTok because we know that's a whole other thing where nobody's saying that, right? But to be able to understand, and you don't get in on it earlier, it's harder to catch up, figure out where it fits in your life, and then use it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a quick story on this. My father-in-law is 84. And I think earlier this year, I can't remember, but recently, he literally texted and said, what is this AI thing? I want to learn about it.
Love it. Love that. See, and have some fun with it, right? And learn it. That's exciting. And you think about somebody that's 84, what they've seen in their lifetime. And if you, how terrifying that could be, really, when you go from the world wars to where we are today to flight and technology and everything else, right? The moon landing, all the stuff that's happened in his lifetime. It's pretty incredible. And it's only going to get more so. And if he texts you at 95, he'll be texting you about something else. Because something else.
I said to someone, I wish I could be alive in 500 years from now to see what happens.
Right? It's crazy. I know, but it's exciting. And you got to pace yourself like with anything else. You got to figure out where it fits in your life, right? None of this is a replacement for people. And kind of talking about that, I want to switch gears a little bit and I want to talk about 99 Humans. Talk to me a little bit about your podcast. How's that going?
Oh, and you were one of the guests. Your episode was amazing. I had so much fun learning from your leadership experience. So listen, Nadia and Human started 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been already 2 years. We published episode 66 last week, and we are charting very, very nicely towards the 99s. And once we're finished, we're going to spend some time writing the book. And hopefully our vision is that this book is going to be available to everyone. And when we started, this started during the pandemic, right? Like Jeff and I, my partner, we looked ourselves in the eyes and, we are first line managers at Google. And so we are squeezed between senior leadership and individual contributors on the front line. And this is a very difficult job to do at any company. When you are a middle manager, sometimes you don't have the decision power that you would want to have. You are frontline on everything that happens, talking to clients, and it can get pretty rough. And during the pandemic, Jeff and I were looking, ourselves in the eyes, and we said, but what is leadership for this new generation of people like us, where we care about the bottom line, we care about the metrics, we care about business results, but we also care about people deeply. And as we started navigating, we couldn't find really resources that were highlighting the human side of leadership, right? I'm not talking about the very glossy and incredible magazine covers. Like I'm talking about rough stories. And we looked ourselves as we said, well, what if we create a podcast about this? And we've read a book about this because, Kathy, and I'm going to say this in a way, I hope it sounds genuine. Whenever I see leaders that are too perfect, whenever I see those leaders that are too rehearsed and they are so flawless and they are so glossy, I don't even know that it's real. And mind you, I'm a very big proponent of preparing, and I love to be prepared, and I prepared for my presentations and everything. But sometimes it's not perfection. What I'm looking at is genuine, authentic, and vulnerable connection with those leaders. Mm-hmm. And so that being said, we set ourselves on a quest and we said, let's find 99 of those incredible humans across industry. As of today, we've had a director of an hospital, for example. We've had a director of a school principal. We've had a woman that had to lay off, I don't know how many hundreds of people, and she told the story. We've had someone from the military industry. We've had aerospatial. Like we've had any sort of leadership story. And the common factor is always the same, is about people that are driven by an inner purpose and people that are driven by the desire to create meaningful connection with other humans. And, even piggyback about what we said about AI, I believe that there's nothing that can replace this type of leadership. There's nothing that can take the space of people that can lead other people's up and motivate others and inspire. Because those are people that are moving the masses. Look at leaders outside like Tim Cook and others that lead with their genuine spirit. And so 99 Humans has the ambition to unveil those stories. We've been very grateful to all the people that genuinely gifted their time. And I'm looking forward to see what happens until 99, 33 to go.
That's incredible. That's a wonderful story. But I think it's also the flip side of the conversation of our time, which I said is really AI. It's what everybody's talking about. But it is that flip side of the humanization of people and recognizing how important that we are not getting lost in the shuffle, and AI will never replace us. And to your point, these leaders that you're talking to are moving the masses, but these people are impacting lives every single day. And some of them go unappreciated. You talk about the school principal or who's running the hospital, right? These are important stories that if we were to be hospitalized and we all have children in schools, these are the things that we may never hear about. We don't know. And when somebody's laying off 100 people, we just assume they're checking boxes. There's a human being behind all of that. I've been there. It's very, very difficult. And to be able to share their stories is impactful. Thank you for doing that.
We're loving it. I got to tell you, if anyone wants to listen, the story of the principal during COVID, mind-blowing. The director of the hospital that has to manage both doctors, leaders, and business leaders. Oh my God. I mean, sometimes I complain about my problem. That brings you also perspective.
Yeah.
So that's also why we did it.
Yeah. I love that. It shows us that we're not all alone in our own little worlds, right? That there's commonality, these threads that come across all leaders. And that's exciting. When I share the information here, we're going to share the link to your podcast too. I'd love for people to take a listen. It's pretty incredible. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. But I want to talk now. I want to switch the conversation one more time to talk about leaders again, but back to the human piece. And that takes us to Spark Your Zeal, your new lifestyle brand. Talk to us about that. I'm an avid follower. I have the book, Love Letter to Myself. Tell us what's happening. It's exciting. And tell us really what your mission is for doing it. This is a desperate passion project for you. You are throwing your whole self into it. I know. Please share.
I am very passionate. Thank you for reminding me about my passion indeed. I mean, listen, everything started from what I call a dark moment, right? Like a couple of years ago, I was just moved here in New York and I was going through the corporate ladder climbing as many of people like me do all the time. And for the first time ever, I got a rejection. And I later learned through my spiritual awakening that a rejection is never a rejection, it's just a redirection. And it's never a no, it's a not now or something better is coming. And when we are in the moment is tough to see. But now I can see why that happened. And with that fire that I had inside me, you know, like a phoenix, you know, it's one of my favorite tales, the Phoenix Rising. I started working with a coach to understand what was I meant to accomplish in this life. I was just about to turn 40. And in many of us women, turning 40 is almost kind of a turning point. You know, we're feeling our hormones changing and everything from one day to the other is different. And I was talking to her and we were having this moment where I had this rage inside me and I had this fire. And I was asking questions about what am I meant to accomplish? Like, it cannot be that my purpose in this planet is just to be a corporate executive. I mean, really, I am way more than that. And unpacking. I still remember as it was yesterday, she asked me a question and she goes, what are your talents? She was like, what happens when you walk into rooms? I know you know this question very well because you asked it to me as well in one of our coaching sessions, Kathy. And I said this sentence, I said, listen, when I'm in the room, I bring the energy, I bring light, and I bring that fire that makes people move. And so through that, the concept of Spark Your Zeal was born because literally she played it back to me and she said, oh, you spark people's zeal. And I said, oh my God, that's what it is. And you know, we started going back and forth and I said, but wait a moment, this is not only a thing that I do. This for me is a way of living. I still remember when I was 6 years old, people would say the same, that I was this bundle of energy that when I was with people, I would light everything up. And so we started unpacking and building. And eventually my corporate mission was born, you know, corporate Spark Your Zeal mission, which is I deeply desire to transform lives and corporations by kindling those hearts to generate the zeal for life. And what that means is that I want the people that interact with me to realize that sparking our zeal is like taking vitamins for our spirit. You know, I'm sure you take supplements like I do. I take supplements for my cholesterol with omega-3. I take vitamin D. You know, every day I take at least 10 type of supplements for my body.
Right.
But what supplements do I take for my spirit? What supplements I take for my soul? And so the ambition of Spark Your Zeal is to really be this daily vitamin that you take for your spirit, that spark by spark by spark is really allowing you to raise your vibration so that you realize that by igniting your passion, you get what you want. Now, how does that translate? Of course, it translates in content that people can consume, either digital content or printed content like the love letter. I'm about to launch my second book in the fall. It's called 11 Ways to Spark Your Zeal. And I dream of so many things, Kathy. I want to launch a membership program. I dream about, producing an on-the-core line that Spark Your Zeal, or a clothing line that Spark Your Zeal, like things that by interact with them daily, make you happy, raise your vibration, and makes you a source of zeal for others. Because that's eventually my goal. I don't want to be around people that are negative. I don't want to be around people that are just bringing the low vibrations into the world. I get it. Someone can be sad. Someone can be upset. Everyone has those moments, me included. But one thing is to have a moment and one thing is to live that way. And so my mission is to take those people one by one, transform them, and raise the world vibrations in the end so that I can also be a better life being around those people.
Your energy is infectious. Your zeal for life is infectious. And I know that when I see you posting on social media, when we have conversations, people feel that from you. But you said before, and I want to touch on this because it's so important and it goes back to your book, Love Letter to Yourself. Why is self-love one of the core aspects of sparking our zeal? Why do you keep coming back to that? People would say, I don't hate myself or whatever. Why is that so important when we're talking about vibration and we're talking about the energy? Why is that self-love so important? And why sometimes is it so hard to achieve?
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that, Kathy. I've been doing a lot of research on this matter and it's fascinating. I don't know if I've been more prone to see it, but Oprah spoke about the love letter to yourself. Deepak Chopra speaks about that. Michael Singer speaks about that. Like a lot of spiritual and leaders out there are now speaking about it. Even Drew Barrymore in her TV program. It's not only Nadia saying it, by the way, but there's a lot of evidence about this. If we start by the concept that God is inside ourselves and we are the source, and that we are the ones with the power to realize and change what's around us, because at quantum level, it's all one and the same. Eventually, the best thing that everyone can do for themselves is to realize that they are, and we are, the self is the most incredible individual on the planet. And that by doing that, we are raising our own personal vibration, and we vibrate in the level to attract things that are meant for us to be. There's a lot of research. If people don't like this woo-woo chat, there's a lot of scientific research about it. I mean, Joe Dispenza, Peter Attia, like there's a lot of content from neurosurgeons, doctors, like people that have PhDs, like even bigger than I, that are now talking how the way we vibrate and the way we meditate with us and the way we go into the world is what attracts what's happening. Now, for some weird reasons, when we are children, we are geared towards getting love from others. Mm. And I mean, I can also understand when you think about a baby, unless is loved, has the risk of dying. I mean, think about back in the days, in the medieval days, if a child was not crying, no one would even hear it that he was hungry and needed food. But with the evolution, we are now at a time where in most of the developed countries in the world, you would survive. We don't have those challenges anymore. And so by learning how to love ourselves and by learning how to be independent in that quest for love, we are becoming self-sufficient and we are raising our own vibration so that we can attract. Now, I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to share a very little story and an example. With perimenopause, I started having challenges about sleeping at night. And, I take supplements, but still from time to time, I wake up at night and, 3 a.m., my brain starts spinning and I start getting anxious. And I started sending myself and talking to myself as if someone else was. So in practice, that looks like in my brain, I would start reciting, "Dear Nadia, you're fine, you're loved, everything will be okay. You can go back to sleep and everything is going to work out." So I literally say a kind of a lullaby to myself to put myself back to sleep. This has been one of the most transformational things I've been doing, Kathy, because now I'm not hearing my self-talk and the detriment of all of the spinning, but I'm embracing my self-love and I'm nurturing myself as if my mom would do it, for example.
Right.
So this all goes back to why the love letter to yourself is because unless we are learning that we have the power to self-soothe, unless we are learning that we do have the power to love ourselves, we cannot get rid of that rabbit hole of criticism and yelling. How many times have you watched yourself in the mirror and said, I don't like this about myself. Yeah. I want to lose 10 pounds or whatever it is. I mean, I do that often still.
Yes.
What would happen if the narrative is different? And if we say, well, dear body, thank you for walking me every day. Dear eyes, thank you for allowing me to see, and on and on and on. And listen, love letter is now being done by hundreds of people. And at the beginning, it's cheesy. It takes some time for people to say, I'm just going to sit down and do it. But then everyone says the same. It's about rewiring our brain, and it's about reteaching ourselves how to self-soothe and how to vibrate high. Because love in the end is the highest vibration, so that we can attract what we're meant to accomplish.
This is just fascinating to me. I've been doing this work for years and it transformed my life. And then when you came along with this, and it's just continued confirmation and continued inspiration with you. But I think one of the things that people struggle with is recognizing that we are energetic beings and that we're no different, right, from anything else. Everything has energy. And so we can control that. And we can control our environments. And I've heard from people all the time saying, well, I don't really believe that. Things are all set for us. Things just happen. But everything you're saying, there is scientific evidence behind that. And these great thought leaders of the world, they all talk like that. They all speak to that. And really, it's simple. But I think in the simplicity, it gets lost because it is simple. But that's where I think it's easy to get tripped up, because you say there's got to be more to it. Well, it really is accepting that everything that happens around us, we can't even see most of what happens around us, and being willing to believe that there is more than meets the eye and that we are capable of so much more than we've ever thought it.
I think I read a stat somewhere. I went to the Deepak Chopra event and he was sharing we are like 0.09% versus everything else that is in the universe. Yeah. Like, can you believe how small we are? Yet we function to perfection, yet we vibrate, yet we can attract. There are so many things. I was reading a book lately. It was about taming the stress monkey. There's now so much evidence that sicknesses, all of the worry in our head. I started practicing this, that every morning when I wake up, I start saying something amazing is going to happen today, just to set the tone in a different way. Or I'm so grateful about what I have, which it means that I want more. I'm not saying that I'm okay. I mean, I want to get more. But in the meantime, I'm grateful about what I have. I get perspective. So it's tough. I am not there yet fully, Kathy, to be completely honest. I have my days that I spiral, and I have my days that I have fears, and I have days that I wish I had more or more serenity, like we all do. Because by definition, we are wired and we are built to want more. Because then when we vibrate higher, that we want to attract more, that's how we get it. The world in itself is infinite. I'm looking outside of my window and I see all of the trees that a month ago seemed dead. They all have their leaves now. And it's an infinite rejuvenation. So I'm not asking people to believe me. I'm asking people to take a chance and to play with it. Do an experiment. Write a love letter to yourself. See what happens. And for those that still don't want to try, then do your due diligence. Read the science. There's so much of it now. And it's really impossible not to live your life like that.
Well, I think once you experiment with it too, and you can see the changes that happen very quickly. And some of them, they may take longer, but once you see it, once you feel it and experience it, you get it. And for many of us, in some ways, that has to be done. But how can people get in on Spark Your Zeal? Do you have some events coming up? How can they follow? I mean, they can follow you on LinkedIn. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know people are going to want to learn more.
Oh, thank you. Well, people can sign up for my newsletter at sparkyourzeal.com. That's the first step. I share a lot on LinkedIn and Instagram. These are my biggest two vessels right now as I continue to flesh out a YouTube channel and a podcast. So that will be in store for next year. I will be launching on Wednesday my first product that is called the Love Letter Experience. And so if people fancy, they can go check it out. It will give access to 3 events with me and things like that. And in the fall, I will be launching the Spark Your Zeal membership. Because listen, I have big ambitions. My dream is that 1 million people will be writing their love letters to themselves. And so my only way to get there is through scale. I wish I could be with people one by one, but as a corporate executive, I want to work in scale and I want to transform as many as possible. And so the membership might be the vessel to that. So fingers crossed, everything will go as intended.
That's exciting. And I will say too that I think people need it more than ever. It's interesting what's happened, particularly since the pandemic. And yes, we're not dealing with that, but there is so much else going on in the world. And there is so many ways that things that take our attention and that stress us out and that take our focus off of what we really are here to do. We get stuck in the minutia of our days. And there is so much more to all of it. So we're going to share that information about everything here so that people can follow you. Your followers on LinkedIn, I know, have exploded over this past year because your message is resonating with so many people. Congratulations to you and to them.
Thank you, Kathy. My only wish right now is that I continue sparking my own zeal as well so that I can continue doing this work. And I'm thankful to people like you that are always encouraging me because I need words of encouragement and they're validating. Yeah, there's so much need for it. I believe it.
Wonderful. Well, listen, we're tying up our time together today. We're going to share all the great information. But as we're signing off here, what's the last thing you'd like to say to people that are listening? And by the time people listen to it, they may not listen to it right away after the episode drops. They may listen to it after they listen to 99 Humans. But what do you want people to take away? And what's your one message, if you had to narrow it down, that you really want people to hear, regardless of when they hear it?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Here's my message. You are the only person responsible for you. No one is going to come and save you. Even if you have friends and others, it's not fair that you put your burden on them. And so if you are a person out there that either you're going through a moment or while you need to ask for help, the ultimate action and the ultimate responsibility on you, it's from you. And so that's my wish for everybody, that everyone can find the strength to move the first step, to really embrace it. Because we are borrowing every day from our last day. And so I know it's cheesy again, but when they say make every day count, I really mean it. And it's up to you to make it count.
And I think we'll leave it right there because I can't think of a better way to end it. You're beautiful, you're inspirational, you're brilliant. I just so grateful for our time together today. Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
All right, bye, everybody. Listen, before you sign off here, make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you ring the bell so you get notified when more episodes drop. Check out the information below about how to reach out to Nadia and follow her all the places that she is. And until we meet again, live inspired.